Good evening and welcome. Welcome to Dean Rhoden, a dialogue with Dean Rhoden, Adventures of a Prostate Cancer Survivor. This presentation is brought to you by the community health researchers who have launched most recently the Prostate Health We Care Call to Action Roadshow. This will be running from the 1st of February through to the 30th of March in the areas of Bruce Grove, Lordship Lane, Mulberry Junction, Northumberland Park, Selby Road, Seven Sisters Road, Tottenham High Road, Turnpike Lane, West Green Road, White Hart Lane, Wood Green High Road, and the nearby areas within the London Borough of Haringey. The Community Health Researchers is a partnership of organisations supported by North Central London Integrated Care System. The partnership is led by Bridge Renewal Trust, which includes Sewn Together, Rise Project, Black Arts Production, and Haringey Basketball. The initiative is facilitated by MCW Connectivity. It's also a great chance to get a health check, nutrition, mental well-being, employability, and housing information, and also get involved in the quality of life expectations survey. The community health researchers will be holding both online and face-to-face dialogues to share the knowledge gained from individuals and families who have had first-hand experiences, with the support of clinicians and advocates who have the cultural understanding and awareness. These dialogues will take place in familiar settings, such as businesses, community centres, places of worship, and will be broadcast across a number of radio stations. So once again, Dean Rhoden, welcome, and I hope all is well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me on this wonderful platform.
Thank you very much. So Dean, the title is Adventures of a Prostate Cancer Survivor. And as you know, what this whole operation for us is about promoting prostate health, as in the title. Prostate Health We Care Call to Action Roadshow. But for this session now, we're talking to you as somebody who has the lived experience. And what you're going to do today is take us through the 5 steps, as we call them. The first step being denial. Second step, acceptance. The third step, treatment. The fourth step, recovery. And the 5th step, reflection.
Okay.
Over to
All
you.
right. Yeah, man, I'll try my best. Once again, thank you very much for this great opportunity. And, I must start with the denial process. It's all started when I moved to the US, growing up back home. I didn't have the opportunity to do the regular cancer test, which is the DRE test, so we grew up not knowing it. But coming in the US, I had the privilege of doing my yearly test. Once you're 50 and over, it is recommended that you do your prostate test. So like 8 years ago, I did my first test and it was okay. It was a DRE test and it was quite fine, because when you're at the age of 50, your normal prostate should be between 2 and 4 the PSA. So I had a normal test and my blood count was all within, it was 2 point something 10 years ago, and I did not follow it up. That was the mistake. I didn't, I say I'm okay. So I was very active. I've never smoked. Don't smoke. I was very active and everything. And 8 years after, like 5 years ago, I did the test. I went and did a PSA, and that's when I saw a movement of my PSA. It was the first time I was doing the PSA, not aware of how serious the PSA was, because once you do the DRE, which most of us in the Caribbean are familiar with, then it just say you're normal. So you just overlook the PSA and just said you're a normal person. And that's where we need to pay more attention to the first initiative part of it. And then when I was diagnosed with it now, at first, the doctor said, I'm on the borderline. I said, no, I was in denial. I could not believe because I've never smoked. That's where the denial came in, never do anything. And I said, okay, still in denial. I redo the test, the PSA, like 4 times within 3 months. Still in denial because I said, maybe they're making a mistake.
We've lost the line for the moment. Hopefully we will get it back.
That's when the acceptance mood came in, said it's a reality. It's not a fake. You have prostate cancer. And, I went to the doctor and he told me that I was on the borderline. It was stage 2 now, and it was going up. And that's when acceptance mode comes in to deal with a trained doctor, because I get all the different types of medication. I get all the different all the different doctors recommend take this, take that. But I went to the real doctor, and then that's when the acceptance mode came in. Then moving to the treatment. That's the part that after you accept it, what's the next step? And that's the acceptance part. You're gonna need a lot of support because the mental part of you, that's when that chipped in for you to accept that it's a reality now that you have it. And if you don't have that support group, and your support group is your family, your community family, your immediate families, that's where the strength of the treatment and the recovery. Because if you don't have a good support group, once you accept it, you will stay in that mode. And for you to start getting the right treatment, you'll have to have the right people around you to encourage you. Because I've get so many different type of treatment to take, and I looked at it and I put it to God. I just put it over to God and said, let me choose the right type of person to guide me. And that was the medical trained doctor, you know. And that's when I went and I take his advice. And when they told me what was the step to do, I went and I put it to God again and said, I leave it in your hand. Because some people say it's inheritance. Some people say it's a food that you're eating and the different things that causes the prostate. So when I finally went to the doctor and I went to diagnose what the best treatment for me, and I said when I went to him, I prayed the night before and I asked God to tell the doctor what's best for me. When I went to the doctor, and I think this was a very interesting part, the doctor take you in a room to talk to you because you need counseling. Men on a whole, I know for me, we just don't take it serious because I weren't even fully accepting it. I said I have prostate, but when he said the cancer is like my 2 feet went, I almost faint in the room. I said, growing up when somebody have cancer, that's a life sentence. The next move is death. I don't know nobody who recovered from cancer. So I'm like, wow. So I said to him, before he continued, I said, Doc, I asked God to talk to you, to tell me what's the best treatment for me. Because I started a lot of research, whether the surgery, the radiation, and the different type of treatment. And he told me for my condition, 60% surgery would be good for recovery and 85% radiation. And this is the part that I think, especially men going through this phase, need maybe not a family member, but a good friend to support you to start your treatment immediately. Because I was still in denial. I was like, okay, well, I'll go home and consider what to do. Although it tell me, I still weren't accepting my that I really had it. So I said, let me go and consider which is best for me. And a good friend of mine, she said, when you go to the doctor, make sure I talk to the doctor. And before I leave, I said, well, he tell me, she said, hand the phone to the doctor. And the doctor said, radiation. And she said, let him start it now. And the same day I started radiation, I did 47 radiation. I went in the hospital. I was still working. So I drove myself to the hospital and went 47. But because I had other issue while I was dealing with the cancer, I was in a car accident. So I had other problem. So I had a pinched nerve. So during my cancer treatment and everything, the last 2 weeks, that's when it really started, went to the heart of it. And they told me that's the time they're gonna burn it out. And I sort of get, from the car accident and other things, I had to do a spinal surgery, but it wasn't because of the cancer. So I was admitted into a nursing home during that time. I overcome the cancer, end up in a nursing home. So my last, they did the radiation along with 4 injections because they were like 4 other stage. If the radiation did not work, I would do other stage, but the radiation works for me. So I had to leave the nursing home in an ambulance. I just blocked my mind because people are saying if you do the radiation, you're gonna end up in a hospital, you're gonna die. And but I was determined to live. I was determined not to take untrained advice, because I don't know, I didn't poison myself. I get it amount of different bush and medication I get from untrained doctors. But I just block all of that and just focus on what the doctor recommended me to do. And I did it, did my treatment. During the time I was in the nursing home, did my final treatment, everything was okay. That's the time my dad takes sick in Jamaica and he was 93. That's the time I knew he had cancer. When I was in the nursing home undergoing my surgery, my father was admitted at a hospital in Jamaica at 93. And I tell my son the symptoms that he was going through, I was also going through some of the symptoms earlier on. So I tell my son to let him check for his PSA. My PSA was 16, it went to 28. My dad PSA was 500. And the doctor said he was eating right and, exercising, cutting the lawn like a year before, 92. He was still painting the house, moving around. And he didn't last long, but I don't know. He don't communicate with us. And I think a part of this where I see the communication with your family is very important. So I started to tell my son at 40 that, what happened. So when my son, said you have to be in touch with your family to communicate with him, because if I knew he had prostate, in Jamaica we call it, or the Caribbean, we call it different names. But the parents, we don't communicate with our children to say that we're undergoing these symptoms, and then I could start check myself a little earlier. But he passed off while I was there. And then I survived and I said yes. When I heard, I couldn't tell him my sickness because I didn't want to hurt his feeling, but he passed off while I was in the hospital. Then the recovery, after this treatment, that's a part you can accept where you are and stay to that level. When I went in that nursing home, we had 25 people died, different, my roommate, he also, but I noticed they giving up. He said that he just call it quit. And because of my training, I believe in don't call it quit until you have that last breath. And the therapist said to me, do what you love doing best. And that was what kicked into me after accepting it, that don't stay where you are. get back in denial that you will not stay in that condition. You know, as a trained scout leader for over 40 years and being involved in community work, the therapist said, do what you like best. And that's the time I met you, Rudy, and I get involved into community work. I started community service, working with scout, getting back involved. And that's when I start to feel myself getting back alive, getting back, start to recoup. I don't feel sorry for myself. I start to do all the different things. I was in a building where I went in, the building was on fire. One person died after, out there, but I still said, I'm not going to give up. I leave the hospital in a wheelchair, and I was in this building at 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard a knock and said, Dean, get out, get out. And I went in the building. I had nurses aid around me to take me out of the building. And I heard somebody screaming. And I said, I'm not going down. The first time I walked down that stairs, because I was told I was going to die in that nursing home. 25 people died there. I got COVID. I mean, those injection was not around those time. And I fight it. And I said, God, I'm here for a special purpose, you know. And I've said, when I had the life alert on my neck and I called the ambulance, they said to me, Dean, out the building. But as a trained person, you have to look around the surrounding. There were over 2 feet of snow outside and people were running out. And I said, no. So I couldn't put on my shoe because that nurse put it on. I just threw all these things on my walker and the elevator was down. So I looked at it and I said, I've never done staircase. And I walked, the first time I walked since coming out of the hospital was, I did the second floor, went down the stairs. And the following day, I said, you know what? I just went down by myself, down the stairs and 2 flights up without no nursing aid. And from there on, every day, I just keep on doing it. And I tell myself I was in denial to stay at that position. And your greatest strength is you. You can give up or you can tell yourself, hey, you're going to move forward. You're going to dust yourself off, pick yourself up and move again. And many of those people, as I said, these untrained doctors, people giving medication who have cancer, they call me, and that's the reflection after all these things. They call me, don't want their friends to know that they are calling me and said, what was the medication the doctor gave you? Some of these people, I remember, like up the last weeks, someone called me and said, it's been a year now. He's trying to just do the test, the biopsy, but he's so scared. You don't know what to do. And I tell him, say, I see it all right, but you have to accept it. You need to go like last week. And after finished speaking to him, he said, Dean, he has family member who have been through the process. I did not show him it. And the guy went and started his process immediately last week. So sometimes the support and the way people relate prostate to you, you can build it or you can make it break you down. But your family support, your food, your diet, I was saying to someone, said, sometimes people say it's inherited, but you have to look at the family background to see if the same type of food, you're all eating the same food, or you're doing, what you're doing together as a family. So sometimes you can change your diet or just a change of something, but thank God, I did my last prostate test last year, November, and it's been 3 years now. I'm 0.11, 0. I couldn't walk. I'm now using the walker. I'm now using the cane. I'm bathing myself. I'm doing everything. I'm back to normal. Everything is functioning. And, thanks to Rudy, Rudy has been one of my greatest motivator, has encouraged me. He has been, for the past 3 years, he have put me back into community work. And I think that's what the therapist said. Do what you love doing best. So if you like to read, junior sickness, go back to reading. Whatever you love to do, I go to church. I have trained people over 30 years, and I know there are 4 main points of they said once a child, twice a child, and once a man, And when I was down, I started to reflect, I became a child. And when I asked the aide to buy me a book, and a pencil. My hand could not open. I started to write A, B, C. I started to think like a child. I started to creep. I do everything like a child. And then I know that, to build a child, I train a child physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And I went through all those phases. I read out the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and I can recite each book of the Bible, and I read my mom, and I start reading it over again. So the spiritual part of me, whatever you believe in, those are the four pillars that I've trained young people. And I said I've trained thousands of people. So I start to practice what I teach. I went back and I said, Dean, physically, socially, I've started two foundation, with the support of Rudy, community work. Those are what you have to interact socially with other peers. And your support group, be around positive people, avoid negativeness, deal with positive people, and they will give you the energy. And
Great.
that's it, I guess.
Great story, Dean. And thank you very much for sharing that with us. And that's Dean Rhoden. He's the president of Let's Talk Under the Reggae Tree Foundation, which operates both in Jamaica, in the USA, and here in the UK through the online activities. So this was brought to you by the Community Health Researchers, and their program is the Prostate Health We Care Call to Action Roadshow that will be running from the 1st of February through to the 30th of March in the areas of Bruce Grove, Lordship Lane, Mulberry Junction, Northumberland Park, Selby Road, Seven Sisters Road, Tottenham High Road, Turnpike Lane, West Green Road, White Hart Lane, Wood Green High Road, and all the nearby areas, and that's within the London Borough of Haringey. The Community Health Researchers is a partnership of organisations supported by North Central London Integrated Care System. The partnership is led by the Bridge Renewal Trust, which includes Sewn Together, Rise Project, Black Arts Production, and Haringey Basketball. The initiative is facilitated by MCW Connectivity. It's also a great chance to get a health check, nutrition, mental well-being, employability, and housing information, and get involved in the Quality of Life Expectations Survey. The Community Health Researchers will hold both online and face-to-face dialogues to share the knowledge gained from individuals and families who have had the first-hand experiences with the support of clinicians and advocates with the necessary cultural understanding. These dialogues will take place in familiar settings, such as businesses, community centres, places of worship, and radio stations. Thank you.